Your life is about to split in two completely different trajectories. One version of you continues on the path you're on. Same patterns, same results, incremental change at best. The other version makes a leap, takes the risk, crosses the threshold. And 6 months from now, those two versions of you are living completely different lives, different careers, different relationships, different levels of fulfillment, different realities. And the moment that determines which version you become is happening right now. Most people don't realize they're in it until it's already passed. Bifurcation points are real, not abstract spiritual concept. Actual moments where your life diverges into two radically different possible futures. Quantum physics has proven this. Every decision creates branching timelines, but most decisions are small. They create branches that remain relatively close to each other. Go to this restaurant or that one. Take this route or that route. Minor variations on the same basic trajectory. But certain moments, certain decisions, create massive divergence, where the two possible futures become so different, they're unrecognizable from each other. Those are bifurcation points, and most people experience 3 to 5 of them in a lifetime. The tragedy is that most people don't recognize they're in the moment until it's already passed. They look back 6 months, a year, 5 years later and realize, that was the moment. That was when everything could have changed. That was when I could have chosen differently. But I didn't see it. I dismissed it. I was too afraid. I rationalized staying. And now I'm living the consequence of that missed moment. And there's a particular kind of regret that comes from knowing you stood at the threshold and turned back without even realizing there was a threshold to cross. There is a sign. A specific, recognizable sign that appears before major bifurcations. But you have to know what you're looking for, because it doesn't look like what you'd expect. Most people are waiting for external sign, the perfect opportunity landing in their lap, the crisis that forces their hand, the universe sending unmistakable message through circumstances. But that's not how the real sign works. The real sign is internal, energetic, frequency-based. And if you don't know what it feels like, you'll dismiss it as stress, anxiety, restlessness, or discontent. That feeling you've been carrying. That sense that something needs to change, but you can't articulate what. That restlessness that won't go away no matter how much you distract yourself or try to optimize your current situation. That vague dissatisfaction that has no clear source. That's not random. That's not just you being ungrateful or going through a phase. That's the sign. Your soul knows the split is coming. Your higher self can sense the bifurcation point approaching. Your frequency is preparing for the leap. But your logical mind hasn't caught up yet. So all you feel is the dissonance, the discomfort, the sense that where you are isn't where you're supposed to be. The split doesn't announce itself with trumpet and fanfare. It doesn't send you an email saying, major life decision point arriving in 14 days. It whispers. It creates subtle internal pressure. It makes your current life feel slightly wrong even when nothing specific is broken. And if you're not paying attention, if you're not aware that this feeling is actually information, you dismiss the whisper. You tell yourself you're fine. You push down the restlessness. You convince yourself to be grateful for what you have. And you stay on the path you're on. And life continues. But something in you knows you missed it. And that knowing haunts you. I'm going to tell you exactly what the sign looks like, why it appears before the split, not during it, how to recognize it in real time instead of in retrospect, and most importantly, what to do when you see it. Because seeing the sign means nothing if you don't act on it. The window is small, the choice is time-sensitive, and once the bifurcation happens, once the timeline splits, you're locked into whichever path you chose. Or more accurately, whichever path you didn't choose to leave. Because that's how most people end up on the wrong path. Not by choosing it, but by not choosing the other one strongly enough. Let me explain what's actually happening when your life bifurcates. Because this isn't mystical. It's not just poetic language for making a big decision. This is how complex systems work. And your life is a complex adaptive system. In mathematics and physics, there's a concept called bifurcation theory. It describes what happens when a system reaches a point where it can no longer continue on its current trajectory and must split into one of two dramatically different states. Think of a stream flowing down a mountain. Most of the time it adjusts around obstacles, changes course slightly, but stays basically the same stream. Then it hits a cliff, and at that cliff, it must bifurcate. It cannot stay the same. It must either become a waterfall or diverge around the obstacle into two separate streams. The system reached a point where continuation of the current state became impossible. A split became inevitable. Your life works the same way. Most of the time you're making small adjustments, incremental changes, gradual shifts in one direction or another, but you're still basically the same stream, same identity, same patterns, same fundamental trajectory. Then certain conditions accumulate. Pressure builds, frequency elevates, and you hit the cliff. You reach a point where you cannot continue being who you've been, where the life structure you've built cannot contain who you're becoming. And at that point, bifurcation becomes inevitable. You must split into one of two dramatically different versions of yourself. What triggers a bifurcation point? Three main things. First, accumulated pressure. You've been ignoring something, tolerating something, or suppressing something for so long that the system can no longer maintain equilibrium. The pressure finally exceeds the structure's capacity to contain it. Second, frequency elevation. You've been growing, evolving, raising your consciousness, and you've reached a frequency that's incompatible with your current life structure. You literally vibrate at a different level than the life you're living. Third, external catalyst. Something happens in your environment that demands a different response than your current patterns can provide. Job ends, relationship shifts, health crisis, wake-up call that can't be ignored. Any of these alone can create a bifurcation point. All three together make it unavoidable. And here's what most people don't understand. Your consciousness has been building toward this split for months, maybe years. Every small decision, every incremental moment of growth, every time you chose expansion over comfort, your frequency has been slowly rising. You've been approaching the cliff without realizing it, and now you've reached it. Critical mass, the stream hit the edge, and you must split. You cannot stay the same. The two paths are real futures, not hypothetical fantasies. Both exist as probability in the quantum field. Path A is continuation. You find a way to make your current life work. You adjust. You optimize. You convince yourself it's fine. You maintain the comfort zone. You avoid the risk. And your life continues on a trajectory that's recognizable as extension of where you've been. Path B is transformation. You leap into the unknown. You let go of what's familiar. You risk the security you've built. You trust something you can't see yet, and your life shifts into completely different structure, different identity, different reality. Most people assume Path A is safer. It's not. Path A at a bifurcation point isn't the same as Path A before the bifurcation. Because you've changed. You've reached the cliff. Trying to keep living the life that was designed for who you were before you hit this point creates massive friction. It's not maintaining status quo. It's suppression, regression, slow suffocation of the self that's trying to emerge. Path A after bifurcation is actually decline disguised as stability. This is different from regular decisions. Regular decisions are choosing between options within the same life structure. Should I take this job or that job? Should I date this person or that person? Variations within the same basic identity and trajectory. Bifurcation is choosing between entirely different life structures, different identities, different timelines. It's not what you do, it's who you become. And that choice, that identity level choice, creates a timeline split that's measurable, real, permanent. The sign is not an external event, it's an internal state. A specific frequency signature that appears 2 to 6 weeks before a major bifurcation. And once you know what it feels like, you'll recognize it immediately. But if you don't know, you'll misinterpret it as something else. Depression, burnout, midlife crisis, quarter-life crisis, existential dread, and you'll try to fix it with solutions that don't address what's actually happening. Here's what it actually feels like. Everything feels off, but nothing is specifically wrong. Your old life doesn't fit anymore, but new life hasn't appeared yet. You're restless, but can't name what you want. Dissatisfied, but can't identify what needs changing. You're between, and between is the sign. You're not in your old reality anymore, but you're not in your new reality yet. You're in the liminal space, the threshold, the gap between timelines. And that gap has a very specific sensation that's different from depression, anxiety, or normal life dissatisfaction. Here are the markers. If you're experiencing 4 or more of these simultaneously, you're not having a crisis. You're at a bifurcation point. Time feels strange. Days blur together but also drag endlessly. You're simultaneously impatient for change and paralyzed to act. You can't remember what you did last week, but somehow the week felt like it took forever. Calendar time and your internal sense of time are completely mismatched. This temporal distortion happens because you're oscillating between 2 timeline frequencies. You're touching both futures, and neither one has fully solidified yet, so time stops making sense. Old patterns suddenly don't work. Coping mechanisms that helped you manage life for years are suddenly completely ineffective. Strategies that consistently got you results now produce nothing. You try the same approaches that always worked and they fail. Not because you're doing them wrong, because you've outgrown the frequency where those patterns function. You're trying to use tools from your old operating system in an upgraded system. They don't translate. People start feeling different. Not that they changed. You changed. And suddenly conversations that were fine feel hollow. Connections that were comfortable feel draining. You're sitting with people you've known for years and feeling like you're speaking different languages, like there's an invisible wall between you and them. Because there is. You're vibrating at a frequency that no longer matches your current social field, and the dissonance is palpable. You can't make yourself care about things that used to matter. Ambitions that drove you for years feel empty. Goals that excited you feel irrelevant. Projects you were passionate about feel pointless. This isn't depression where nothing matters. This is selective disengagement. Old things don't matter because they belong to the frequency you're leaving. But you sense, even if you can't articulate it, that new things will matter. You just don't know what they are yet. Your dreams get vivid and weird. Your subconscious is processing the split. Dreams of being in 2 places at once, living 2 different lives, choosing between doors or paths, standing at crossroads, packing to leave but not knowing where you're going. The content varies, but the theme is consistent. Division, choice, threshold. Your dream state is reflecting your energetic reality. You are splitting, and your unconscious knows it. There's a strong urge to do something drastic. Cut your hair, move to a different city, end a relationship, quit your job, delete social media, get rid of half your possessions. The specific action varies by person, but the urge is the same. Destroy current structure. This isn't self-sabotage. This is your soul knowing that the current structure cannot contain what's coming, that you need to create space. Burn the bridge. Make room for the transformation. The urge feels irrational because your logical mind doesn't understand what's happening. But your energetic system knows exactly what it's doing. If you're experiencing 4 or more of these simultaneously, you're at a bifurcation point. The split is imminent, probably within the next 4 to 8 weeks. And what you do in this window determines which path you take. This is why the sign appears before the split, not during it. You need preparation time. Time to recognize what's happening. Time to gather courage. Time to make the choice consciously instead of being thrown into it by crisis or making it by default through inaction. The sign is grace. It's the quantum field giving you advance warning. Major choice point approaching. Prepare. Decide. Don't sleepwalk into the default path. Here's the brutal truth. Most people choose path A, not because it's better, not because it's what they actually want, but because it's easier to choose. And by easier, I don't mean it leads to an easier life. I mean the choice itself requires less in the moment. Because path A doesn't require a decision. You just keep going. Inertia carries you. No risk, no uncertainty, no leap into the unknown. Familiar suffering beats unknown possibility for most people, even when the suffering is soul-crushing and the possibility is everything they've ever wanted. Path B requires active choice, conscious decision, deliberate action against the current. It requires you to override every survival mechanism screaming at you to stay safe, to let go of what you know for what you don't, to release security for possibility, to trust something you cannot see, and that's terrifying. So most people, when they reach the bifurcation point, when they feel the split approaching, make every excuse to stay on path A, and they convince themselves it's the reasonable choice. The split doesn't ask which path you want. It asks which discomfort you're willing to tolerate. The discomfort of staying in a life that no longer fits, or the discomfort of leaping into a life you've never lived. Both paths hurt, but they hurt in different ways. Path A hurts through slow erosion, death by 1,000 compromises, gradual dimming of vitality, the pain of knowing you're playing small when you're meant to play big. Path B hurts through radical uncertainty, the terror of free fall, the disorientation of having no map, but it's the pain of growth, of expansion, of becoming. Path A is seductive because it looks like it's working. Bills are paid, relationship is stable, even if emotionally dead, job is secure, even if soul-crushing. You have the appearance of a functioning life, and you convince yourself, it's not that bad. Other people have it worse. Maybe I'm being ungrateful. Maybe this restlessness will pass if I just try harder to appreciate what I have. Maybe I'm romanticizing change and the grass isn't actually greener. So you stay. And on the surface, nothing dramatic happens. Life continues. But here's what people don't realize. Choosing path A at a bifurcation point isn't maintaining the status quo. It's decline disguised as stability. Because you've changed. Your frequency has elevated. You've reached the cliff. And trying to keep living a life that was designed for the lower frequency version of you creates massive internal friction. Exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. Anxiety that has no clear source. Depression that medication can't fully touch. Because the problem isn't chemical. It's structural. You're trying to live in a container you've outgrown, and every day you stay is another day of slow suffocation. And then there's the regret factor. People who choose path A at a bifurcation point live with the ghost of path B. They wonder, they imagine, they create elaborate fantasies of who they could have been if they'd just been brave enough to leap. And that fantasy haunts them, because part of them knows it wasn't fantasy, it was real possibility. Real timeline, real version of them that could have existed, and they turned away from it. Not because it wasn't right, but because it was too scary. Path B is terrifying because there are no guarantees. You're choosing the unknown. You have no proof it will work. No certainty it will be better. No evidence that the risk will pay off. All you have is inner knowing, a feeling that won't go away, a pull towards something you can't fully see. And you have to trust that. Against all logic, against all evidence, against every reasonable voice telling you to stay where it's safe. If you're at a bifurcation point right now, if you recognize these signs in your life, write "I see the split" in the comments. Not as commitment to choose path B, just as acknowledgement that you're in the moment, that you see what's happening. Public declaration creates energetic momentum. It makes the recognition real. And it anchors you in awareness so you don't slip back into unconsciousness and miss the window. Both paths pull. Path A pulls with familiarity, safety, known quantity, the comfort of the predictable even when the predictable is painful. Path B pulls with possibility, alignment, soul recognition, the call of who you're meant to become. And you're in the middle being torn apart. This is normal. This is how bifurcation feels. Excruciating. Because both paths are real, and choosing one means letting the other die, means killing the version of you that would have lived that other life. That's why it feels like such a big deal. Because it is. And if you don't choose, default wins. Path A. Not because you actively chose it, but because you didn't choose path B strongly enough to override inertia. The split doesn't wait for you to feel ready. The window closes. And whatever path you're on when it closes becomes your reality. Choose consciously or be chosen for by default. But either way, the choice gets made. If you recognize you're at a bifurcation point and you want path B, if something in you knows that transformation is calling even though everything else is screaming to stay safe, here's how you actually choose it. Because wanting it isn't enough. Understanding it isn't enough. You have to take action in physical reality, and that action has to be strong enough to override every mechanism pulling you toward path A. First truth you need to accept. You don't need to see the whole path. Path B doesn't reveal itself fully before you commit. You get next step only. Maybe not even full step. Maybe just direction. Take this action. Have this conversation. Make this change. And only after you take that step does the step after it become visible. This is why it's called a leap. You cannot see the landing before you jump. You don't get the security of a guaranteed outcome. You jump because the inner knowing says jump. Because staying feels like death. Because something deeper than logic is pulling you forward. And then, after you're in the air, the path appears under your feet. Second truth. Path B will feel wrong to everyone else. People in your life are invested in you staying on path A. Not maliciously. Not because they don't love you, but because they know path A you. They're comfortable with that version. Their life is organized around that version. Path B you is unknown. Unpredictable. Threatening to the equilibrium they've built. So they will discourage you. They will doubt you. They will question your judgment. They will tell you you're being impulsive, irresponsible, naive. Their resistance is not evidence that you're making a mistake. It's evidence that you're actually considering real change. And real change destabilizes systems. Expect resistance. Don't let it stop you. Third truth. The fear never goes away. You're waiting to feel ready, certain, confident, clear. It's not coming. Path B is inherently uncertain. That's the nature of transformation. If you wait until you're not afraid, you'll wait forever. And the window will close. Courage is not absence of fear. Courage is acting while terrified. Every single person who has ever chosen path B at a bifurcation point was afraid. They just trusted something deeper than the fear. They moved anyway. And the path appeared because they moved, not before. Here's the actual practice. Step 1. Name the split. Write it down. Make it concrete. Path A is continue in current job, current relationship, current city, current version of myself. Path B is quit and start the business, end the relationship, move across the country, become the version of myself I sense but haven't embodied yet. Be specific, not vague fantasy. Actual different trajectory. Step 2. Feel both futures. Don't think about them. Feel them. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself 6 months down path A. You stayed. You made it work. You optimized the current situation. How does that feel in your body? Heavy? Resigned? Safe but numb? Comfortable but dead? Now imagine yourself 6 months down path B. You leaped. You risked everything. You're in unknown territory. Terrifying? Yes. But alive? Expanded? Aligned with something true, even if you can't name it yet? Your body knows which path is yours, even when your mind doesn't. Trust the body. Step 3. Identify the first domino. Path B doesn't require you to change everything at once. It requires you to tip the first domino that starts the cascade. What's the one action that initiates path B? The conversation you've been avoiding? The application you haven't submitted? The boundary you haven't set? The thing you need to end? Find that domino and tip it. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now. Because tipping the first domino creates momentum, and momentum carries you when courage wavers. Step 4. Create a point of no return. Humans need commitment devices. We need to make choices that can't be easily undone. So we're forced to follow through even when we get scared. Quit the job before you have the new one lined up. End the relationship before you have someone else. Make the public announcement. Burn the bridge back to path A. This isn't reckless. This is strategic. You need to remove the escape route so you're forced forward. Because if the option to retreat is available, You'll take it the first time things get hard. And things will get hard. Step 5. Expect the void. Between leaving path A and arriving fully in path B, there is void. A period where nothing works. Where you have no structure, no identity, no clarity about who you are or where you're going. This is not a sign you made the wrong choice. This is transition. Caterpillar in the cocoon isn't becoming a butterfly. First, it becomes soup. Completely dissolved. No form, no structure, just liquid chaos. Then it reforms. You will have a soup phase. Don't panic when you hit it. Don't interpret it as failure. Don't try to go back. You can't. The bridge is burned. You're in metamorphosis. Trust the process even when it feels like annihilation. Let me tell you what actually happens when you choose path B, because people romanticize transformation. They imagine some clean, beautiful process where you make the brave choice and everything falls into place, and you live happily ever after in your aligned life. Reality is messier, grittier, more painful, and more beautiful than the fantasy. And you need to know what you're signing up for. First 30 days after choosing path B, free fall. You left path A, you burned the bridge, but path B hasn't solidified yet. You're in the void. No structure, no security, no proof you made the right choice. Everything in you is screaming that this was a mistake. You will doubt, you will want to go back, but you can't. The bridge is burned. This is the most dangerous window. The point where most people who chose path B panic and try to recreate path A in a different form. New job that's the same as the old one. New relationship with the same dynamics. New city, but same patterns. Don't. Sit in the void. Let the old identity dissolve completely. Path B cannot form while you're still clutching pieces of path A. You're in the cocoon. B soup. Days 30 to 90. Emergence. Path B starts revealing itself. Not all at once. Not with clarity and certainty. But in pieces. A conversation that opens a door. A person who appears at the right time. An opportunity you couldn't have predicted. A new way of being that feels foreign but true. You start recognizing that you're different. Not better necessarily, just different. Operating under different rules. Old problems don't exist anymore. Not because you solved them, because the version of you that had those problems doesn't exist anymore.